Good morning, friends. Let's go feed the farm babies. Oh my goodness. On our way to feed the animals, let me show you beautiful Peggy Martin Rose that is just showing out right now. Isn't it beautiful? She is really glorious this morning. Wow. I love how it's making like this swag across the storage shed here. This is so pretty. Peggy Martin has an incredible story. The Will to Survive. Y'all go check out my video about Peggy Martin that I did last year. Tell you all about the story and the history of this wonderful rose. My little crystal fairy roses are starting to open up. Little tiny buds and blooms. Ah, they're so cute. Won't be long and all these little crystal fairy roses that I have all along this border here is just going to be popping. I picked up a few more plants last night. My friend Holly at the University of Montevallo is having a plant sale tomorrow. And I went last night and helped her set up for her sale. And I grabbed a few things that I didn't have. I got brandywine tomato and some basil. And some zinnias that I couldn't resist even though I got 1,000 seeds. Let's see, picked up some different peppers, some Thai peppers, orange peppers, habanero peppers, and I got some, I got a black cherry tomato and a black creme, and I don't know, she threw me all kinds of surprises in there. So I'm gonna get these in the ground today. My Lamarne rose is blooming beautifully. It's looking really pretty. I'm dealing with some black spot, but the roses are beautiful. Oh man, Quietness rose is blooming this morning. Wow. She's my favorite. Probably my favorite. So pretty. Full of big, beautiful buds. I'm dealing with some black spot. I think it's just all the rain that we've had. Y'all go check my video out on Quietness Rose. It's got a sweet story too. My little vacciniums are getting loaded with little tiny blueberries. Tiny, tiny. The birds are gonna be super happy with that. See what else. The Salvia is blooming beautifully. This is Henry Doolberg Salvia. I've got little pockets of that all in here. So it's starting to bloom. All my babies are hollering for me to come feed them. I get sidetracked on my journey to feed the animals. I have to stop in the garden and look at everything blooming. I'm coming, babies. I'm coming, Chloe. Hey, champ. Good morning, girls. I'm coming, champ. Good morning, girls. Good morning. Some of the baby chicks are adapting well to their new homes. A lot of these right here are the ones that Chase and I hatched. Very cool. I think she was one of the very first ones that hatched. This one down here is so cool. I love the black body and the white head like an eagle. Really neat. No telling what we've got here, because I really don't know what the daddy is. Joseph. There's the king of the chicken coop. He's the only rooster we have, so he has to be the daddy. And I don't know what he is, and I'm not sure exactly whose egg was whose, but we definitely had some of the Americanas and some of the Buff Orpingtons, but other than that, I'm not sure exactly which was which, so I really don't know what all these babies are, but it's okay. Look how pretty they are. They got such pretty colors. All the chicks that's still in the brooder box here is for our friends, Jack and Donna. They're coming to pick up their chicks and their 2 swarms of honeybees that we've got for them this weekend. So they'll be going to their new home. Hey, champ. Good morning, bud. Good morning, buddy. Hey, bud. Hey, dear champ. You want out of there? Okay. Come on, buddy. Good morning. Good morning, bud. Good morning. Hey, buddy. Good morning, babies. Good morning. Hey, babies. Hey, Miss Chloe. This one stays right here. Right by me, don't you, Chloe? Hey, baby. She stays right by me. Are y'all hungry? Come on. Let's go. Come on, babies. Come on, babies. Now that the animals are all fed, let's go take a look at the garden and see what all's going on. You can see right here, the market garden has not been done yet. We took a little trip this past week to the beach for about 4 days. My mom took all of us on a little beach trip. Jean, Chase, me, my brother, his wife, and my sweet little nephew Ethan went. It's his first beach trip ever. We had a great time. And Pop and Mom and Aunt Emma came down here and stayed at the farm and farm set for us while we were gone and took care of everybody and everything. So I'm really grateful for that. But needless to say, the market garden did not get put in place. We put it on hold, and I'm hoping and praying I'm not going to be too late to be able to contribute everything I want to contribute to the CSA. But you know, sometimes you gotta just take the opportunity to get away and go. But this weekend, this market garden is happening. Gene is going to get a disc this evening when he gets off work. And we're gonna get this disc up in the morning, we're gonna get it raked out, and we're going to get it planted. I've got big ambitions for this weekend. And I've got some helpers coming to help me. Pop, Mom and Aunt Emma's cooking us dinner. Pop's coming. I don't know, I might recruit a few more people to come and help us get this market garden in place this weekend. It's a lot to do in one weekend, but we're gonna get it done. All right, let's go check out what's happening in the potager garden this morning. Farmer's Dream is finishing up her show. All my herbs are doing really good and growing well. This bee bomb's taking off. It's gonna be beautiful when that blooms. This is my bay leaf tree. It's doing really good. The garden shed is just looking so sweet. I love this phlox around the arborvitae and the boxwood and the rose here, the Lamarck rose. I'm loving that whole sweet little combination there. In this container here, I have a little dwarf boxwood, some vincas, and this trailing plant I have here is called dichondra. Sometimes it's called Silver Falls. And I love this in containers. It's so sweet. By the end of summer, this thing will just be hanging all the way down and just is so beautiful. This is a little drift rose. This one is popcorn. This one is popcorn. Starts out with these real pretty yellow buds and then fades to this white starting to bloom. It's tough little rose. Knockout actually makes these drift roses, and they're super tough. My little sedum bowl here. It was just full of sedum, and I've been digging some out and using it in other places, so it'll fill back in. My greenhouse is getting just about cleaned out. We've been planting a lot of things in the potager garden. So I've still got some stuff in here, but not as much. I've still got a lot of herbs that I want to get in the ground, but it's getting empty. I never gave you guys a proper tour of my greenhouse. Jean got it up and it was just like so quick. I needed to get my plants in here and get them started, and I never really gave you guys a proper tour of it. So I'm gonna give you a real quick tour of what we did here. Jean and I built this greenhouse for us out of cattle panel trellises and lumber, and we got 6 mil plastic from a supplier down near Orville. So the windows came from our friends Jack and Donna. They gifted us these windows. By the time they got the greenhouse built, I needed like tables in here really quick so that I could get the plants in here. So we got these pallets and recycled them and turned them into tables here. These pallet shelves are working out fairly good. I mean, they're working out pretty good. We're going to come back and build some really good shelves in here probably this winter, or whenever lumber gets back to a decent, reasonable price. It's absolutely ridiculous right now. But like I said, he got this greenhouse built and I needed it immediately, so we just threw these tables together out of pallets and it's working pretty good. And then I had this metal rack thing and we just threw this one up on cinder blocks. He put me some water in here. I found these raised bed boxes in the dump at Petals when they were cleaning out the pole barn, so I drug them home, and what I'm growing in these is Moringa. Y'all go check out my video on Moringa. It's a superfood. It's also called the miracle tree, tree of life. It has so many wonderful nutrient benefits. So last year we would just come pull some and put it on our salad, but I also took a lot of it, harvested it, dried it, like pulverized it in my coffee bean grinder and put it in a little jar, and we've been throwing it in our smoothies. So it's really a good high nutrient food. We discovered this when we took a trip to a permaculture farm in Costa Rica, and it was growing everywhere there. And when we got home, I sought this baby out and found it, so I started growing it. Now last year I just grew it in pots. This year it is a tropical plant, so it's not going to make it through our winters really. So this year I'm trying to grow it in this greenhouse because it does like the heat and humidity. So I want to see how it does in here. I am planning to come back this winter and lay down some landscape fabric in here and bring in some pea gravel or something, because the weeds in here are just ridiculous and we do not need one more thing to have to weed eat. Like I said, we were just, when they got this built, we were just in a big hurry to get in here so I could get growing the plants for the potager garden. So we just threw everything in here in a hurry. But this winter, I'm hoping we can jazz it up a bit. So on this back end back here, we have some shade cloth over that whole end. And we have another door back there, but this is just where we can store some supplies and any plants that I want to keep in the greenhouse but they need to be shaded, they're going to be going back there. So I think they did a really good job on this little greenhouse. It's not the glass and stone greenhouse that I've always dreamt of, but it is functionable and I think they did a great job. The greenhouse is 20 feet long and I think it is 16 feet wide. I think that's what it is. So it's worked really well for us. I have grown a lot of plants in there this year for this garden. And right here, I've shared this before, but I made this little bed here and we planted emerald green arborvitaes just to kind of screen and hide the greenhouse from the view of the garden and the view from the house. Yesterday, I come in and popped in all of these little chamomile babies that I grew in the greenhouse. In this whole bed, I've got them all in here on both sides. So I think that's really going to be lovely because it stays low. It's going to really be pretty under these arborvitaes, but it's also hopefully going to provide me a lot of chamomile flowers to make chamomile tea. This bed's doing pretty good. I picked up some Jerusalem artichokes and planted them in here. They're going to multiply and fill in this whole corner, I believe. I'm really excited about getting my hands on some of those. Chase and I planted more tomatoes yesterday. So this is super sweet cherry 100s. All down the side of this bed here and on the trellis, where I've planted mostly Roma and paste tomatoes. So most of the ones at that end are San Marzanos. And they're like a bigger Roma or paste tomato. And then we've got some Juliets here, which are my favorite little Roma tomatoes. And then we've got some Sun Golds, which are my favorite little cherry, gold orange colored cherry tomatoes. Those are my favorite. And I want to pick up another Sun Gold, so I've got a hole there. And this bed is mostly the sweet potatoes. You can see some frost damage here, but I've just been coming in, picking off all these leaves, and they're coming out nicely. They're gonna be nice. I like to come in and pick off any diseased, dead, or damaged leaves because I feel like, you know, energy is going into trying to keep those alive, fighting to restore them or keep them alive, and it's really not worth it. I want the energy going into developing the healthy plant. So I try to always do that, come through and just pick off any dead or damaged leaves. It won't be long and this whole garden, this whole bed right here will just be full of beautiful sweet potato vine. And on the tomatoes, I planted them on the back side of this trellis so that I actually could be able to walk around and be able to harvest and work on my tomatoes from the back side. Because when this sweet potato vine gets going, I'm not gonna have room to even get in there. So I'm hoping that works out okay. I'm just trying to maximize every little piece of space that I can to grow as much food as I can. The potato bed is kicking. It is doing so good. The cabbages are beautiful. The Chinese cabbages are doing beautiful. I've been coming out and just picking and eating those. So yummy. The borage over there is looking really pretty too. Won't be long and that'll be blooming. It's looking really pretty. I love that big foliage. Grape arbor is starting to fill in, so I'm excited about that. And this bed is our winter squash bed that Chase and I planted. It's growing really well. Look at these radishes. Radishes grow so quick. Like, they're just a super quick little crop. And you can eat the leaves of those radishes too. When the baby leaves are the best. This bed's doing pretty good. That frost last week, unexpected frost that we got last week, kind of nipped a few things, but it's all coming back. My lettuce and my carrots is just beautiful. So pretty. I wanted you guys to see this because I'm about to come out here and harvest a lot of it for a salad for this weekend to feed all my helpers. I just love lettuces. God, the colors, it's just so beautiful and vibrant. Our tomatoes are growing pretty good. I gotta get in here and do a little pruning. I started down there, but then I quit. I gotta get in here and prune these up a little bit. I like to snip off the bottom branches off of the tomatoes so that they're not getting soil splashed up on the leaves, because then you'll end up with blight and fungus and all kinds of issues. So I try to keep those pinched off, And then I come in and pinch off the little growth between the armpits of the tomatoes too. So I've got to get in here and work on this a little bit, work on my tomatoes, but it won't be long and they'll be reaching my trellis and I'll be tying these babies up. We planted this bed this week too, so this is summer squash. Yellow crookneck squash, zucchinis. I've added sunflowers down there, and all right in here I've added a flower mix. It was called Happy Pollinators, I believe, but it was just a bunch of packets of wildflower mix that I had, and I just put that all in here. So that's gonna be lovely. Now look at this rose. Y'all have heard me talk about this rose for months and months. Well, over a year now probably. But this is Rosa Multiflora Carnea, and it is doing its thing. Isn't it lovely? And it's so fragrant. You can smell her over this whole entire garden. Isn't it beautiful? I love how it's climbing over this archway, this cattle panel archway. It's just really doing great. I'm gonna tell you, I've grown roses. I've grown a lot of roses, a lot of different ways. And climbing roses on these cattle panel trellises is my favorite way to do it so far. It's just been so easy to weave these roses in and around this cattle panel trellis, and they're just really doing good on this. This Rosa Multiflora is just gorgeous. My little cool season bed here is doing pretty good. Some things have started flowering and I just keep coming through and picking them off. Here's my spinach, and these are some sweet alyssums. I had to replant these like twice because the past two frosts kept getting them, but that one actually made it. And I love little sweet alyssum. It attracts a lot of little tiny bugs that are awesome beneficials and pollinators. This is cauliflower, and my beets are coming up over there. A lot of my broccoli didn't come up, so in those broccoli spots I planted some little bumblebee cherry tomatoes there. So they'll be coming up all down through here. I did little cherries. As these cool season things play out, I'll be coming in and popping in some summer vegetables. But right now I had these empty spots, so I just added a few tomatoes. You can see my little broccoli here trying to go to flower. So they taste good though. That is more broccoli. Brussels sprouts, hopefully. So we'll see. All along this trellis, we've got heirloom tomatoes. So, got my garlic, heirloom tomatoes, onions. There's some basil popped in down here too, and marigolds. I got a lot going on in this one little space. But this is where all my heirloom tomatoes are going. And right now, we've got Cherokee Purples. All of those are Cherokee Purples. And I've got a Mr. Stripey right there. Mr. Stripey is a really good red and yellow striped tomato. And this one is, let me look because it's a really long name. Well, I took the tag out. It's Berkeley's tie-dye. I'll have to put the name on here for you because I can't never remember the whole name, but it's a very super cool tomato. So anything that says tie-dye, I gotta go for it. But I grew it last year and I liked it. So I've got those there. And then the rest of the way down here, I'm going to be planting some of the heirlooms that I picked up from Holly last night. So I saved this space for those. You can see all my little carrots coming up. Yay. Okay. Let's see what else is happening. Look at this lavender blooming. This is Spanish lavender, and it's more tolerant to our humidity. Isn't this gorgeous? Man, it's so pretty. I haven't really added much to this bed, so it's all pretty much still the same. The only thing I've added some borage, maybe some parsley, but this bed is all still pretty much the same. But look at this rose. I'm just so in love with this rose. I'm so in love with it. Okay, we looked at that bed. Let's move up here. Now this bed, I sowed a lot of seed in this bed the other day. So you saw my herbs here. I added some basils, some purple basils. I thought that purple basil was going to be a beautiful contrast with this golden sage. That's going to really be pretty. The rest of this space right here, I'm going to do more herbs. I haven't quite decided what I'm going to put in here yet, but that's going to be mostly culinary herbs. All through here, I've got my cut flowers. So I've done a mix of zinnias, and let's see, I did 2 rows of zinnias, 2 rows of cosmos and cleomes and zinnias all mixed up in there. Then another row of zinnias, and then this row here is amaranth, and these are peppers. So let me tell you about that. Last year, I planted amaranth with my peppers and my eggplant. Peppers and eggplant usually get attacked a lot by flea beetles. Well, I read in my companion planting research that amaranth was a really good trap crop for flea beetles. So I planted it all amongst my peppers and my eggplants. Well, all summer long, the amaranth leaves were eat up by the flea beetles, but the peppers and the eggplants weren't even bothered with it. And a couple of my videos last year, a couple of my tours last year, I showed you guys the proof of that. So this year I purposely did this. I planted, this is my cut flower garden, and amaranth makes beautiful cut flowers too. It's just gorgeous wands of these red or purpley pink blooms. So they're beautiful cut flowers too. And the flea beetles don't bother the flower, they just bother the leaves. So works out pretty good. So I put the amaranth in my cut flower garden here, and then I put the peppers on the side of the garden. So I think that that's going to be a really good combination. So on this bed is all the cut flowers, amaranth, and peppers. And then on this side is, right now it's turnips and rutabagas and sweet peas and kale and mustards. But on this row here, I've started my peppers, and then behind it I did some amaranth too. So mostly these are bell peppers, and then over here is my unusual peppers. I picked up a Thai pepper and cayenne and shishito, I think is how you say it, and just some different peppers that I'm going to be planting down through here with more amaranth to be my trap crop and to be beautiful cut flowers. This bed I haven't really added much. I'm going to do cut flowers all in there. And then I've added herbs here. I've got thymes, borage right there, sage, marjoram, and then I did chives all the way down the border of this bed here. Our little scarlet runner beans have started popping through. They're growing fast now, really fast. As soon as they shoot through the surface of that soil, they just take off. I've added a lot of herbs down here on this end. So I added some dill. We've got that Tulsi basil. The frost hit a lot of them, so I've put some more seed in pots in the greenhouse because I want to replace it. I wanted a lot of Tulsi basil, but all of those that I had back in here died from the frost. Let's see. I've got I added some tarragon here, there, and there, and pineapple sages. I did add the pineapple sage here that I was telling you guys about last week. Look at all these wildflowers going back here. Aren't they pretty? We'll just walk through the medicinal herb bed a little bit because there's a lot blooming here. It's a beautiful rugosa rose and it is gorgeous. It makes wonderful big rose hips, and that's why I chose it for the medicinal garden. I also chose this rose because it is a single petaled open centered rose and the honeybees can feed on that. The beautiful double full roses, the honeybees really can't feed on those, but when they're open centered like this, they love those. So, and I love the foliage of this rose. The foliage is just beautiful. Let's see what else is going on. My calendula's really doing good. I added a lot of calendula to the medicinal garden. That is anise. I added about 4 more lemongrasses to the garden. Let's see, that's catnip that we grew in the greenhouse and planted. And this little rose is Basie's blueberry. And it makes really good rose hips too. And it also has that open center so the honeybees can feed on it. And this is my horehound that is just spreading and doing so great. And one of my viewers asked me where they could get horehound. I ordered the seeds from Baker Creek Seeds or Rare Seeds and grew them last year just sitting out on a table in front of my garden shed. And it's done really well. It was really easy to grow. So maybe you can get you some seeds and grow some horehound because it's a great addition to the garden. The Comfrey's blooming. Ah, the honeybees love comfrey. Tons of pollinators love comfrey. Look at my little calendula getting ready to bloom. Yay! I'm excited to harvest these calendula flowers. And I've got one red clover that popped up back here on its own accord, and I decided to keep it because red clover has a lot of high medicinal properties in it as well. I think, if I can remember correctly, I'm trying to study all my herbs, but I think that red clover is really good for women issues like PMS and menstrual issues, I think. I have to go back and do more research on that, but I know it's got high medicinal properties, so I left it in here, and I'm hoping that it's actually going to go to seed and kind of spread throughout here a little bit. That would be nice. Look at this comfrey blooming. This is a pink bloom. I've never had a comfrey with a pink bloom. They've all been purple blooms, and this one's pink. Wow, that's exciting. I just now noticed it. I didn't even realize it. Look at this bee. This rose is Old Blush. Old rose. Fragrant and makes small rose hips, but it makes a lot of rose hips. So that's why I chose that for the medicinal garden. And this is dianthus. I really don't know that dianthus has a lot of medicinal purposes. I'm gonna have to look that one up and see. I just had a bunch of it and I just started popping it in places because I love the color of it. I just planted more calendula here and here. This rose is Katy Road Pink. Isn't it beautiful? Big rose hips. This one makes big rose hips. It was found in Texas on Katy Road. More comfrey. That's my marshmallow plant, which is doing really nice. I added a ginkgo tree. This is Ginkgo biloba, and they are gorgeous trees, like so beautiful. Look at these leaves. I love ginkgo trees. Now, I don't know if I'm ever going to see the glory of it because it's slow, but it's okay. You plant trees for the future generations. Look at that dianthus, isn't that sweet? Then I've got my bronze fennel here. Won't be long and this thing will be completely stripped from all the caterpillars. But that's very cool. That's what I want. I want to have host plants in my garden for the butterflies. And this little flower right here is my best buddy. Hey, bud. You're a good boy. Let's just take a quick walk down this border because there's a lot of beautiful things blooming. My dianthus is still going strong. The lavenders are beautiful. Spanish lavender, catmint. At the base of this sweet rose, this is Marchesa bacella. Beautiful, beautiful. This is sage and it's blooming. More catmint and dianthus. Those are phlox that's coming up. Let's look over here on this side. Clotilde Sapere is still blooming a little bit. This Maggie rose is really starting to pop open. It's so pretty. Really, really fragrant too. It's beautiful. I got all kinds of things popping up in there. Here's my peony, echinaceas, baptisia pulled through. More dianthus and lavender. And this is Belinda's Stream. Just kind of struggling a little bit with black spot, but look at this bloom. This is the sister or the sport of Farmer Stream that's over on the chicken coop. So this Belinda Stream is a shrub form. Yarrow's getting ready to bloom. This is bishop's flower. So bishop's flower is a wildflower and it's a lot like Queen Anne's lace. See the beautiful little, they're in the same family. So it's a lot like Queen Anne's lace, but it's called bishop's flower. Isn't it beautiful? And this will reseed and just kind of hopefully pop up all over the garden. I love this lacy, airy foliage and these cute little white blooms, and the pollinators love them too. And my bee balm's spreading nicely. Well guys, I'm gonna wrap up our tour right there for today because my tours get so long. I've just got so many wonderful things I want to show you guys and tell you guys about that they just end up getting long. But anyways, I'm gonna wrap it up and get out here and finish planting the potager garden today. I'm always adding to the potager garden, but I want to get the majority of my plants and my food in today that goes in the potager garden so that this weekend we can get focused on this market garden. So thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. Y'all have a blessed week and I'll catch you on the next video.